So one type of word problem we need to be able to work are the simple interest word problems. And to do this, you do need to have one thing memorized, and that, of course, you need to have the formula. Fortunately, it's really easy. So it's really, and I'm just going to rewrite it so you can see it without the little dots and stuff. It's interest is equal to principal times rate times time. And that's all there is to that formula. The key, of course, is knowing what each of these things mean. So I is our interest. P is principal. And when the word problems talk about it, principal could be the amount that you're borrowing. It could be the amount that you are investing. There are a variety of things that could constitute principal. So you do need to be careful that you read the word problem carefully so you understand, what's the principal. The interest, of course, is always things like, it could be what you earn. It could be, what you owe on top of the principal that you've borrowed from a bank, that kind of thing. Now, the rate is the percent. So, if you have something like a 7% as your rate, what you need to remember is you can't do math with a percent, so you have to translate this. So the first thing that you will do is to translate this to the percent form. You can translate it to a fraction. 7% looks like that, but most people prefer the decimal. So you'll see that. So either one of these is perfectly legal, though. I do use both. It just sort of depends on what the numbers look like on the problem. And then time for us is always going to be in years. So you would write down the time, and let's say it's 2 years. So that's easy enough. But you've got to be careful if it's in, say, 6 months. You can't write 6 because 6 is months. It's not years. So you have to translate 6 months to years, and of course that would be half a year. So that's where you would go with that. And you could look at that either from the fraction perspective or from the decimal perspective again. So a half is, of course, 0.5. So either one of those would work. So that is your first job, is to write down the formula, and then I always write this down and just label everything. Make the translations that you need to, and then the math is easy. So let's just do this example. We've got an investment at 6% for 1 year earns $43.50. So we see here is our percent, here's our time, and here is what it earns. That's our interest. The original investment is our principal. So here's the principal. Here's the interest, here's the rate, and here's the time. So it's nice to be able to look at that. So the formula we know is I is equal to PRT. Interest we know is $43.50. Time is 1 year. Rate is 6%. We want to translate that immediately to 0.06. And interest rate time principal is what we're looking for. So that's our big question mark. So now we are going to rewrite this formula, plugging in everything we know. So interest we know is $43.50. Principal we don't know, so we'll just leave it. You can put an X in there if you want. It doesn't matter. Rate, we're multiplying that times 0.06. And time is 1. So the first thing that we're going to do is, well, of course, we do the math, and we multiply what we can. So 0.06 times 1 is 0.06. And now we've got a variable with a constant. They're being multiplied, so we divide that out. We divide on one side. We have to divide on the other side also. So that gets my principal, my P as a loan, and then you're just going to go off to the side or pick up your calculator and take the 43.50 and divide it by 0.06, and you get and of course that's in dollars. And if you want to, you can check it by kind of doing the reverse of what you just did. So you would say, you know, interest is, or you could say interest is equal to principal, we're trying to decide if 725 is our principal, times the rate of 0.06 times time of 1. And then when we multiply all that back together, we should get that original interest that we had. And indeed, you know, when we multiply those together, we do get $43.50. So we know that we did a pretty good job there. Now, the last step that I have here is to interpret your answer. That's kind of one of the last things that we always want to do when we're looking at any word problem. And in this case, we go back and we think about what did this question ask for. It wanted to know what our original investment was. So our original investment is $725. That was our principal. Okay, let's do another example. So the first thing we do is we look at this, we see that we've got an account, pays interest, simple interest at 8%. It earns that in 1 year. So those are the pieces of information. That earns that is our clue that that's probably interest. Here's our time, which is pretty obvious, and our rate, of course. So our formula, I is equal to PRT. We take each piece. Interest is 13,500. Rate is 8%. We need to rewrite that to 0.08. Time is 1 year. And principal is what we're looking for. So what was our original investment? So that's our question. So now we're going to again take this formula and plug the numbers into it. So interest we said was 13,500 is equal to principal, we don't know. Rate we know is 0.08 and time is 1. So this is really similar to the last one. Again, we just sort of do the math here, multiply those together. Are being multiplied, so we divide. Divide on one side, you have to divide on both sides. And then we simply do that division problem. And when we divide that out, that is what we get. And now we want to interpret that answer, and the interpretation is pretty simple. The original investment, or the principal, was $168,750. Wouldn't that be nice? So this one is a little bit different. It says find the interest on a $1,000 savings bond. So $1,000 savings bond. So that's our principal. That's what we're investing. We want to find the interest. Pays an annual interest rate of 9%, and it goes for 6 years. So again, our formula, I is equal to PRT. I really suggest that you write this every single time. And then interest, principal, rate, time. Interest is what we're looking for. Principal is $1,000. Rate is 9%. We translate that to the decimal form. I'm assuming you guys want to do decimal form and not fraction. And then the time is 6 years, so it's 6. And now we just plug in those numbers. Interest, we don't have a number for. Principal, 1,000. I'm putting it in parentheses because we're going to be multiplying. We multiply it times the rate times the time. And now we just do that math. And of course, hopefully we can see that all we're going to be doing is multiplication. So I'm just going to go ahead and use order of operations and go right in order. When we multiply these first two factors, we get 90. And then we multiply the next two, get 540. And our last step is always to figure out what that means. And what that meant for us is that the interest that we got was $540. So let's do another one. This one says, what is the annual interest rate? So we're looking for the interest, this one. So we're looking for the percent. On a savings account that earned, there's our interest in 1 year. There's our time on a principal of $1,000. So we've got all of our pieces. We know its interest is equal to principal times rate times time. We know that the I is $110. We know that the principal was $1,000. We know that the rate is what we're looking for, and time is just 1 year. So now, again, we're just going to plug in the numbers. Interest is 110 is equal to 1,000 times rate times 1. Well, 1 times 1,000 is 1,000. We want to get the R alone, so we divide by 1,000. Oops. There, that's better. And if we divide by 1,000 on one side, we need to remember to divide by 1,000 on the other side. 1,000 over 1,000, of course, is gone. And now we just take 110 and divide that by 1,000. And we get 0.11. Now remember, when we're looking at rate, we're looking for a percent. So how do we interpret this? Well, we need to change it to a decimal. So 0.11, remember we change a decimal to a percent by multiplying it by 100. So 11, and add the percent. 11% is our rate on that.